Hola, mi nombre es Krystal Everdeen y yo no hablo español, pero puse subtítulos en español para mis subscribers que sí hablan español. Gracias. Hey there, it's Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet two different off-the-shoulder sweaters. Why two in one video, you ask? Well, it's because I was actually aiming to make a tutorial on this kind of off-the-shoulder design, but I don't know, I just didn't like it. So I made a few small changes and made the other design that I showed you in the beginning of the video, which I liked a lot more, even though it turned out to be a crop top, which I didn't want, but I didn't have any more yarn, so I just went with it. Okay, so now that you're in the know of what's going on, let's get started with the tutorial. For this project, I use size 4 yarn from the brand Red Heart, and it is the Super Saver Jumbo. I actually don't know how many yards this has, but it is the Super Saver Jumbo. And I'm also using a size 5mm hook. And the first thing that I'm going to do is grab my yarn and make a slip knot. After I make my slip knot, I'm going to chain a chain that is long enough to cover from one side of my ribs to the other. And if you don't really know what that means, it's basically a chain that is long enough to cover from this side of your ribs all the way across to this side. Yay! So after you have chained a chain that is that long, then you're going to go back on that chain using a triple crochet. So what I do for triple crochet is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over again, back through the stitch, and then you're left with 3 loops. You're going to yarn over, go through the first loop only, then yarn over again, go through 2 loops, then yarn over one last time and go through the last 2 loops. And that's my triple crochet. I don't know if it's actual triple crochet because I always get confused, but that's what I'm going to refer to as triple crochet for the entirety of the video. Okay, so again, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. And if you're wondering how in the world is she making crochet tutorials without knowing if this stitch is actually triple crochet, well, it's because I am a self-taught crocheter and my brain works differently. And I never had to or nor had the interest of learning crochet, I guess the quote-unquote proper way. So my technique, my tutorials are a bit different, but hopefully you're still able to follow along. So you're just going to continue making these triple crochets all along your chain until you reach the very end. And again, it is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. And you're just going to go keep doing that until you reach the end. And once you reach the end, it should look something like this. So now I'm going to show you what I do once I approach the end of each row. So these are my last 2 stitches. Well, this is my last stitch. I'm going to go into the very last stitch, make a triple crochet as I normally would, but after I'm done, I'm going to chain 1, flip the project over, chain 1 again, and then create my next row of triple crochet on top of the previous row of triple crochet. So I'm just going to go into this first stitch right here and create my very first triple crochet of the row. And there you go. And if you're wondering why do you do 2 chains at the end of each row, it's to keep the ends of the row even, otherwise it's going to be really wonky and not even, uneven. So make sure that you make those 2 chains. You don't have to chain 1 and then flip it over and then chain another one. You could just chain 2 whenever you want before you start your next row. I don't know why I work that way, but that's just what I do. Okay, and then that's it. After you have done what you need to do at the end of each row, then you just continue making triple crochets on top of the previous row of triple crochets for the rest of the row until you reach the very end. And once you reach the very end, you're pretty much going to do the exact same thing, but just for good measure, I'm just going to show you again what I do at the end. Okay. So your project should look something like this once you've completed the second row of triple crochet. So again, I am at the end of the row. I'm going to make sure that I go into the very last stitch. That way my project ends are nice and even. Make my last triple crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1, flip it over, chain 1, and then begin my next row of triple crochet on top of the previous row of triple crochet. And it's just going to go on and on like this until your project grows bigger and bigger. So again, the 2 chains at the end of the row are very important, as well as making sure that you go into the very last stitch of every single row. Otherwise your ends are not going to be even. You see how it's nice and square? It's not going to look like that if you skip the last stitch, or if you don't chain 2 at the end of each row. So just continue with that pattern until your project grows larger and larger by making a bunch of rows, because you need to make this project big enough so that when you put it against your body, which is going to be from right under your collarbone all the way down to your hips if you want it to be a full-on sweater. If you want it to be a crop top like mine, then I guess from your collarbone to above your belly button. This part is totally up to you, so it depends on what kind of sweater you would like, how long you want it to be. You could make it super long where it goes all the way down to your knees if you want. I don't know. Yeah, you can make it a super slouchy sweater if you would like, but if you just want it to barely cover you, then make it from your collarbone to your hips. And then after you put it against yourself and it covers all of that, then you're done with one side of your project. And then you get to cut the yarn and seal it like so, and then start all over again, because you need 2 of these. So you're just going to do the exact same thing all over again. You're going to grab your yarn, you're going to make a slip knot, then you're going to chain a chain that is long enough to cover from one side of your ribs to the other, or just a chain that's long enough to be exactly the same length as the first one that you made. Hopefully you're proactive and not like me and you actually counted your chains. I never count anything. I never count my rows. I never count my chains because I'm the worst. I know. I just go by what I see. I just eyeball it. But anyway, you're going to do the exact same thing that you did for the first piece of the project. And once you're done with that, then you're going to have both the front and the back side of the sweater done. Woohoo! Now you just have to attach it. Okay, now this part is the part where if you like the very off-the-shoulder design, then this is the very off-the-shoulder design that I'm doing right now. And in order to do this, I attached both of the pieces together completely, at least on the sides. So I matched them together like so. Having such a difficult time just putting them together. And after I lined them up on the sides like this, then I just slip stitch my way across the sides like so. So my hook is attached to one side and I go through that side, and then I also go through the other side or the other project, and then I slip stitch them together, and I just continue doing that all along the side of the project. Just slip stitching away, making sure that I am very close to the edge of both projects. Otherwise it's going to be uneven if you're going all over the place. So try to stay consistent and as close to the edge as possible. That way it could look nice and clean and even. So yeah, I attached the entire sides together, and after I reached the bottom, then I cut the yarn from the yarn ball and sealed the project. And the way that I seal the project is, okay, I cut the yarn from the yarn ball, and then I take the excess yarn from whatever is still sticking out that was cut from the yarn ball, and I bring it through the last loop, and then I give that excess yarn a tug, and then after that, then the project is sealed. So once I had completed attaching one side of the project, I went over to the opposite side and I attached my yarn this way, which is a little weird, but you could go ahead and watch and rewind if you want to attach a yarn the way that I do, or you can simply just tie a knot to the ends and then attach your yarn that way. Either way, you're going to do the exact same thing on this side as well. You're going to go through both of the sides of the project and attach them using a slip stitch. You're going to go all the way down until you reach the bottom, and then once you reach the bottom, you're going to cut the yarn from the yarn ball and seal the project. So once you have attached both sides, you're going to work on the sleeves, and in order to make the sleeves, you're going to basically make another big rectangle like you have before, except instead of chaining a chain that's long enough to cover from one side of your ribs to the other, you're going to chain a chain that's long enough to cover from your wrist to your shoulder, and that's going to be your sleeve. So after you have chained a chain that's long enough to cover from your wrist to your shoulder, then you're going to go back on that chain using a triple crochet, and you're just going to continue making rows and rows of triple crochet until you have made a project that is large enough so that when you place your hand inside and you wrap it around your arm, then it covers you comfortably and completely. And yeah, so it's totally up to you if you want a tight sleeve or if you want a very loose and chunky sleeve. The number of rows you crochet will depend on that preference. So here I'm done with my sleeve, and it is the size that I would like it to be. So now I'm going to attach the sides so it could actually be a sleeve instead of a rectangular project. And the first thing I'm going to do is align everything so it's nice and even, and then I'm going to put my hook through one side, then the opposite side, and attach it with a slip stitch. Very easy, and I'm just going to continue attaching both the sides together using a slip stitch and going all the way down the sleeve. And once I've attached both sides together all the way down the project, then I'm going to detach the yarn from the yarn ball, and guess what? I gotta do the second sleeve. So do the same thing all over again. And once you've created both of your sleeves, you're going to grab your torso part of the project, and you're going to attach the sleeve to the torso portion. You're going to make sure that everything is still inside out, and you're going to take your hook that is either attached to your sleeve or attached to the torso portion of your top. You can decide whichever one you want to attach it to. It doesn't really matter because you're going to attach it together the same way with a slip stitch. And for this design, you're only going to attach the bottom portion of the sleeve like this. Great. Okay, yes, like this. Sorry, I was out of the shot. But yeah, so that only took probably like 2 slip stitches to attach it. And then you're going to cut the yarn from the yarn ball, bring the excess yarn through the last loop, and then you're done. You've finished attaching that sleeve, and now you have an off-the-shoulder design. Well, after you've attached the other sleeve as well, which is basically you're going to do the exact same thing, of course. Now again, I didn't really like this design. I don't know, I think maybe I made it too big so it kept slipping easily. I also thought that it was a little too revealing, way too cold, not really a sweater that'll actually keep you warm. So yeah, but if you like this design and this is something that you're interested in making, then woohoo, we just completed your project. Congratulations, have fun and rock it. But if you don't really like this design either, then let's get on with what I did or what I changed about this project to make another kind of off-the-shoulder design that actually covers everything and kind of keeps you warm, even though it's a crop top. But yeah, so this was the first design. If you enjoyed it, then I'm glad that you did, and I'm glad that you found this video helpful if you did. And yeah, but now we're gonna move on to the second design, which is pretty much the same exact thing except for a few small changes regarding the sleeves and how you attach the torso portion of the top. Okay, So I've actually already attached one sleeve, but this is what I did differently. So instead of attaching the two sides together completely, I just attached the bottom portion of the torso section. So this part is open, and this part is the part we're going to attach the sleeves into instead of at the very top. And that is actually the reason why the sweater became a crop top for me instead of staying the same length as the first design did, where it covered pretty much everything, but because now this whole part of the top is going to serve for the space for the sleeves, then it gets shortened and now my belly button shows. So if you're going to make this design, make sure that your torso portion is going to be able to cover as much as you would like it to cover. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to attach the sleeve. So I have my sleeve right here, and I'm going to choose a side that I want to attach it, and the other side is going to be right at my wrists. Okay, so I'm going to attach from this side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the sleeve up with the torso portion of the project, making sure that I don't seal the sleeve together, that I grab only one side of the torso project and not both sides, and then attach it, and then I have no opening for my arm. So okay, so I'm going to start off from the torso portion this time, and I'm going to decide on where I want to align my sleeve. Typically right here along the portion of the sleeve where I attach them together, that way it could be at the bottom and kind of hidden away. So I'm going to attach it from there, and then I'm going to align it like so, so that only one side of the sleeve is being attached to one side of the torso, and then I'm just going to slip stitch my way all around. So it is a little bit different than what we did before, where we would attach things that were just straight across. This is actually round, which it isn't really that much more difficult, it's just different. And maybe it is slightly more difficult because you need to know how to align it so that everything is even. So make sure that you align everything beforehand and you have an idea of where you're going to attach everything and how everything is going to sit. Otherwise your sleeve may be attached all weird, which is hard to kind of show you and explain unless I'm actually there with you and showing you in person, but I hope you understand. All you need to do is attach one side of the sleeve to one side of the torso portion and you're good. And it should look something like this once you're working through it. Once I reach the top portion of the torso, then I also crocheted a couple of stitches just so that it's not like super off the shoulder. But then I kind of regretted doing this because now it's not really off the shoulder, it's just like kind of off the shoulder. It just shows a lot of collarbone. But if you want it to be nice and secure like I did, because I really didn't like the first design, so I just slip stitched into 3 of the stitches once I reached the top while I was attaching the sleeve, and then I went back on those same stitches and then continued attaching the sleeve. Again, this is optional. If you want it to be completely off the shoulder, then don't do this step and just attach the sleeve. But if you want to have something at least a little bit on your shoulders so it could stay up and you don't have to worry about it, then you should attach a couple of stitches at the very top of the torso portion, and then just continue attaching the sleeve to the torso portion like this. And I hope that that was enough information on how to do it. Tried my best to explain. So yeah, just going through the torso portion and the sleeve and just going all around until I've attached both sides, and you cut off the excess yarn, except I'm actually going to unravel this project and use the same yarn for another project, so all of the yarn is still attached, if you're wondering why I haven't cut them out yet. But yeah, once you are done with your project and you're satisfied with how it looks, then you just cut all the yarn, all the excess yarn, all the yarn from the yarn ball, and you're good. Now it's time to style it and rock it. I wore this crochet sweater with a pair of bell-bottom pants that I had. They're black and tan, so they match perfectly. And as you can see, this design is not completely off the shoulder, but it does show a lot of collarbone, so if you like this style, then you can go ahead and make those 3 extra stitches at the top. But if you would rather it be completely off the shoulder, then just skip those extra stitches and just attach the sleeves, and it'll be more off the shoulder. And again, if you do not want a crop top, just make sure that you make the torso portion longer. And that's really it. I hope you enjoyed this video and liked either or of the designs, or you liked both of the designs and you have lots of fun crocheting your own sweaters this fall and winter season. Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed it, found it helpful or entertaining, please give this video a thumbs up, and also don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye!